Good morning, our scholars. My name is Nef Jin, MBA student with specialization in finance. I would like to say it is my pleasure to assist Professor Jamilo to do this very meaningful research. The reason why I call this research, which is very meaningful, because as you know nowadays the health issue already is already becoming the most important issue that relates to every single person's life. And if you're focusing on the big picture, what's the health issue that impacted the whole country, like the United States? Uh, the mortality should be concerned at this moment. And there are two general questions that always been asked by people. What are the factors that impact the people's die and that could be avoidable? And also, are there any difference in mortality between the different ages, genders, and ethnicities? Let's bring these two questions and starting our presentation today. Today, my topic is called the impact of modifiable behavior risk factors in ethnicity and gender. Let me do some introduction first. The concept of modifiable risk factor mortality, MRFM, include some factors such as smoking, obesity, illegal drugs, alcohol, sexual transmitted disease, accident, and suicide. We identified these factors based on some previous research. The mainly research that we used according to the Professor Kinney in 2008 from Duke University. And the main database that we used called CDC website, that is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Okay, I would like to introduce two graphs first. The aging curves. Let's focus on the left side graph first. And in this graph, that showed the population, the population of every single ethnicities, and their proportion, of population in this country. Obviously, the white people, that is the blue line, show the highest proportion of population in this country, that with the 62% for white people, and followed by the Hispanic people, 18%, African American people, 13%, Asian Pacific, 6%, and American Native people, 1%. Let's move to the second graph in the right side. This is the picture that we're comparing the every single ethnicity's percentage over the whole population in this country. We could see two interesting finding. The first one, I marked use the right circle here. The peak of the blue line is the white people. The peak appeared in the aging group 55 to 64. So in other words, the white people has the higher percentage of the senior citizen. And on the other hand, the Hispanic people, the peak of this line is happening in the group of 5 to 14 years old. So that means the Hispanic people has the younger has the younger population in this country. Okay, let's take a look some general finding. General finding one, that is the MRFM of female is higher than male. The value of the higher rate is approximately 7%. Excuse me. We could say that these sections, the male side, such as the white people, the male side with 44% comparing the female side 36 and 52 against the 46, etc., etc. All right, the second general finding is showing at this graph. And before we focus on the specific details, I would like to say I would like to introduce what many of these numbers showed. The numbers are the MRFM rates per 100,000 population. Okay, let's focus on the aging group below the 1 year old. We could say the peak value come up with the African American, either male or females, with 38 and 44. And then if we're focusing on the female side, you will find the Native American female has the higher rate compared to other females, followed by African American females. On the other hand, the Hispanic female and Asian Pacific female have the lower rate compared to other females. How about the male side? Almost the same as the female side. The Native American male and the African American male have the have the higher rate compared to another male, and Hispanic male and Asian Pacific male have the lower rate. All right, after we illustrate the general finding, let's focus on more further, like the factors by factor. The first factor I want to show the smoking. The smoking has the higher contributor to the MRFM. And the most contribution and allocate in the aging group with below 1 year old and about 45 years old. At this moment, I would like to say it seems like the people with smoking below the 1 year old is mainly because of the secondhand smoking. Okay, in this chart, the peak value is happening in the African American male with 64 to 74 years old, with a value of 569. And the African American, either female and male, have the higher rate compared to another person. Followed by Native American female and male. All right, let's move to the second factors that called obesity. As same as the smoking factor, the obesity also has the higher contributor to the MRFM. Another similar thing with smoking is they are all follow the trend. The mortality follow the trend increasing based on the aging increasing. That means the higher the higher number is happening in the higher age. And the mainly number is happening in the aging group above the 45 years old. Gosh, what's happened? Okay. The African American male has the peak value right here, and between the aging group 65 to 74. And African American female and male have the higher rate compared to another group of ethnicities, and followed by Native American female and male. Alright, the next factor I want to show the accident. In this accident, I want to say this concept of accident will only concern about some accident that we could control by human beings. For example, like the earthquake, the snowstorms that we can't control at this time, are we not concerned about those factors? Alright, the one very significant consequence is the MRFM of female is much higher than, the MRFM males is much higher than females. So this is why I used two greater signs to show this finding. And if you look the further information, you will find, let's for example, the 55 to 64 white female, the value of 7 point something, the male side is about 20 something, is, the male side is greater than female side approximately 3 times. So at this chart, we will see the male side is much higher than female side, and in some cases, in most of cases, it's the huge gap is approximately 2 to 3 times. So that we see much higher. All right, the next factors I'm going to show you the illicit drugs use. It's also the same as the illegal drugs. It is the most predominant factor among the young aging group. If you remember in previous some slides, all of factors follow the trend increasing of mortality based on the increasing of aging group. But here, the most of people die because of the drugs is concentrate on the aging group from 25 to 44. And in this section, we will find the peak value come up with the white male and female. At this time, the Asian Pacific female and male has the lowest rate comparing the other ethnicities, and in some cases it's much lower than another group. Alright, so far we figured out some factors, specific factors and specific aging groups. And if we comparing the specific factors with every single groups, aging groups, what will be happen? So this is the chart that from female side we comparing the factors to the aging groups, and we marked out the top 2 factors for every single aging groups, and we use a different color to mark it out. And the consequence will be we find out the top 3 in this chart of factors. They are smoking with 26 times, obesity with 23 times, accidents with 21 times. And what's happened of the male side? The same methodologies that we use in the male side, the consequence will be the accidents 24 times, smoking 23 times, obesity 17 times. Alright, so far, I already finished most of my presentation's content and also the conclusion. But at the conclusion parts, we will say, even though we have the huge gap between the gender, but in the conclusion section, we found the top 3 factors are the same. They are the accident, smoking, and obesity. From my personal perspective, based on these factors, numbers, and the times, we might be should to consider something, or at least to need to do some change from now. Okay, this is basically the presentation, and thank you so much for listening. If you have any concern or questions, feel free to ask me. Thank you very much.